device to be safe. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of APNIC conference. You are right now in the Open Policy Meeting second track. My name is Melody, and I will be your MC for today. This session, which is the second track of our policy SIG, is to develop policies which relate to the management and use of Internet number resources within the Asia-Pacific region. Before we begin, I always have 3 things to remind you. Firstly, be mindful of the code of conduct, which is available on the APNIC 50 website, or you can click the link that has just been dropped in the chat box. Number 2, if you have any questions or comments during the presentations, feel free to raise your hand so we can unmute you and you can ask your question, or you can type out your question on the Q&A button. Only use the Zoom chat for questions that are not related to the presentations. One last thing, if you're feeling confident today, how about sharing a photo of yourself joining us from home or your office using the hashtag APNIC50, and you can share it on Twitter or Facebook. That's all from me. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our chair and co-chair, if you don't already know them. Our chair is Botan from Micrologic Systems as chair, and Ching Han from TWNIC as co-chair. Now, we're switching things up a little bit for this session. I believe Ching Han will be introducing the speakers. However, Botan, would you like to say anything first to help kick us off? Over to you.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, good morning to wherever you are on the planet. I have nothing really to say, but to wish Ching Han a good luck because he's doing all the job today. Enjoy. And I'm handing it to you now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Policy SIG second session. And Archer, Bertrand, and Sunny, and Munia Hassan, and George Otaji, and George Michelson, and everyone, good morning and good afternoon. And my name is Jing Han. Welcome. It's my pleasure to be here, to be with you to commence this meeting. In this session, there are 5 presentations in this session. The first one is the policy the SIG administration. This will be presented by myself. So I share the slide. So, it's okay. Could you see the slide? Okay. The Parasitic administration.
Go ahead, Ching Hen.
Okay. So the sixth chapter is to development, which to management and the use of internet number resources within the Asia Pacific region. This includes policies for resource allocation, recovery, and the transfer, and for resource registration within whose reverse DNS, RPKI, and the relative resources. And the proposals, the status currently in progress, the proper 132 has been implemented, and the proper 130 and the proper 133 did not reach consensus at the APNIC 49. They also unable to join this meeting due to time zone difference. So these two proposals has been deferred to the next OPN. In this APNIC 50 meeting, we call for proposals open on 6th July and close on 2nd August. There is no new proposal received. And this list of the URL in this slide can be used for your reference. This slide shows the OPN first trade has been held in the evening of yesterday. There are some reports include ASO AC update by Simon and the IANA RC report by Bertrand, the PDP and the SIG guidelines review report by Sunny. And this session right now has 5 presentations. I present the SIG administration. The Sunny will introduce the NRO NC election procedures. Munir Hassan will introduce the NRO NC nominees. George Otaji will introduce the Prop 125, and George Michelson will introduce Prop 132. So this the agenda today. So if there is no questions, so we will go to the next presentation. So we'll welcome the Sunny to introduce the NRO NC election procedures.
Thank you, Ching Heng. Let me share my screen. If you could please stop sharing your screen, I'll share mine.
Okay.
Thank you. It's coming up, and I go into slideshow mode. Hope you can all hear me, see me, and see my slides as well. Thumbs up? Yes. Thank you. So I'll be Sunny from APNIC Secretariat. I'll be presenting the NRO-NC election procedures. And we also have the election chair online for the next part of this presentation. So let me quickly go through the slides. These are the NRO-NC election for 2020. We have 1 vacant seat this time. And the term of that position will be 2 years from 1st January 2021 to 31st December 2022. Call for nominations was open for a month from 3rd of June to 3rd of August 2020. And the online voting is open for both APNIC members as well as APNIC conference 50 conference attendees via APNIC login. Now there's a criteria who is eligible to vote in these elections, and the criteria is published on the APNIC 50 website, and the link is provided in the slides. The slides are published as well online. APNIC members are entitled to 1 vote as an organization. Corporate contacts and contacts who have voting rights can use the Big Pulse online voting system to cast your vote. And the voting periods started on 24th of August at 12 o'clock UTC+8, and the voting period will end today, 1:30 p.m. UTC+8. The same for eligible meeting attendee as well. The voting period is the same. So if you're registered and attending APNIC 50, you're entitled to have one vote as an individual. And also, as I mentioned before, the criteria to participate in these elections is online. You must be registered for APNIC 50 by 11 a.m. UTC+8 on Tuesday, 8th of September. That was the day one of the conference, APNIC 50 conference. And or you have registered and attended any of these 8 previous APNIC conferences, all the way from APNIC 42 onwards to APNIC 49, as well as this one, APNIC 50. The voting period is the same, starts at 11 a.m. UTC+8 today, 10th of September, and it will end today at 1:30 p.m. UTC+8. Declaration of results, as I said, we have election chair. Election officers will hold an online meeting. Since the elections are happening virtual, the conference is virtual, they will be meeting online with the scrutineers. They'll download the election results. They will go through it and they'll pass the election results to the election chair. The election chair will announce the election results at 14:25 UTC+8 today in the AMM1 session. The election chair will also disclose any disputes and resolutions brought to him, and any disclosures of any communications from the scrutineers regarding any anomaly or issue with the voting process. Declaration of results. This is an example of how the election chair will present to you. We'll have rank and candidates and number of votes each candidate received, as well as the total votes cast. Election chair, as I mentioned, is Munir Hassan. He's online and is appointed by the APNIC Executive Council. He's an independent of APNIC business, APNIC membership, or candidate who is participating in these elections. And he has no interest in these election results at all. His responsibilities to oversee the election process, appoint election scrutineers, declare the election results, and resolve any disputes that he receives. Election officers are Andre, sorry, I can't pronounce the last name. I need to practice that. But Andre and Connie Chan, appointed by APNIC EC. They are APNIC staff, and responsibilities are to administer the call for nominations that's completed, manage the voting process that's ongoing, retrieve the online voting results. Once the elections are finished, they'll retrieve the results and report the results to the election chair and answer any queries from members and voters. So if you have any queries, please, you can write to Andre and Connie. Election scrutineers are from the RARs, colleagues from across the RARs. That's John Sweeting from Aaron and Marcos Kim from RIPE NCC. So these two will be online as well to go through, to oversee the process. Now, these two are appointed by election chair, selected, as I said, selected from the internet organizations such as RARs like us, or could be from ICANN and IZOC, who are present at the conference, at the meeting. They do not vote and must be independent from any APNIC member or candidate. Responsibilities: they observe the downloading of election results by the election officers and notify the election chair in case any anomaly or issues they may identify. Notice of disputes, if any, must be lodged to election chair in writing, no later than 1 hour before the scheduled declaration of the election. So the elections will be declared in the AMM1 at 14:25. So before, an hour before that, if you have any complaints, you should lodge them with the election chair. Notices may only be lodged by nominees or members through their authorized voting representatives by email to that email ID, email election-chair@apnic.net, Voting representatives of members are corporate contacts and those who have voting rights. The election chair shall resolve the dispute at his discretion. Now I invite the election chair, Munir Hassan, to introduce the nominees. Over to you, Munir Hassan. I'll share my slides. I'll drive for you, but you can speak, please.
Thank you, Sunny, and thank you everybody here, and welcome and greetings from Bangladesh. We are very unfortunate that we are not, because of this pandemic, we are not able to host you in our beautiful country. Hopefully in some other years, we'll have to have co-host ethnic or something like that, and we can have you all together in Dhaka. So a little bit about myself. I'm now working for a newspaper, the largest newspaper in Bangladesh, whose name is Prothom Alo, as the youth program, head of youth program and events. But I am an ICT professional, and for my 30 years experience in this industry, people in Bangladesh mostly call me Munir Bhai, and I enjoyed it. Okay, so I have started my career in the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology with the network administrator, and I became system admin when I left for the United Nations Development Program. And after that, I worked for the World Bank, IFC, and became an advisor to the Science and Technology Minister for 2 years. But in 2013, I have decided not to do any formal duties, and with the ICTs and others, I became a consultant over there. But I continue with my job is to create environment for the high school student. So I do work for the Math Olympiad, Science Olympiad, and try to develop the ecosystem on entrepreneurship for the young people in Bangladesh. So that's all from my side. I'm very honored to serve as the election chair of the NRONC election today, and I like to express my gratitude towards Ethnic Board for giving me this opportunity to serve you. So first of all, I'm going to introduce the nominees. Nominees are running for the NC election, as this is a virtual one, so the nominees will not get a chance to talk to you in the stage. But you all the nominee profiles and pre-recorded videos are available at this website. You see this website, https://ethnic.net50/election/nomination. So let me introduce the nominees. The first nominee is Jeffrey Garrett. The second nominee is Nicole Chan. The third nominee is Subham Sharan. And last but not the least, the fourth nominee is Mohammad Suzanur Rahman. I wish all the nominees the best of luck in today's election. So voting is now open until 1:30 plus UTC 8. So voting is open to both ethnic members and ethnic 50 conference attendees who meet the voting criteria. If anyone is having any voting or login issue, please contact Ethnic Help Desk via phone, Skype, or live chat. I would like to declare, if you're, and please use your phone or help desk via phone, Skype, or live chat, because if you have anything, you have to resolve it within the election time. So I will get back here on the 2:25, this UTC 8. So now I would like to declare that voting is now open and will end at 1:30 UTC plus 8 today. So I will come back to announce the election result during the AMM at 2:25. So thank you. Over to you, Sunny.
Thank you, Munir. Thank you very much, and good luck to all the candidates. Best of luck. And that's the end of this election procedures. I'll hand over to Ching Heng.
And thanks, Sunny and Hassan. So we move to the next presentation. So the next presentation is the Prop 125 implementation update by George Odaki. So George is ready and can. George, thanks. And we can now hear your song. Please unmute.
George, can you try speaking? We still have no audio from you.
Oh, yep. Can you hear me now? Yep.
Yes, thank you very much.
Sorry
Please
about
go
that.
ahead.
So my name is George Adagi. I work in the APNIC services team and also provide support to the policy development process. So today I'll be giving you a quick update on the Prop 125 implementation. So moving on to the agenda, I'll be sharing some details about some of the work we've done this year regarding this implementation. I'll also share some statistics about the validation that we've had. We'll also share some feedback that we have received from members this year. And then we'll also have some draft recommendations from the Secretariat to address some of the issues that have been identified. And then lastly, I'll summarize the main points, and then we can move on to some questions or comments from the audience. So for those of you who've never heard of this proposal, it was first originally submitted in August 2018. It reached consensus at the APNIC 46 meeting in September 2018. And then it was, we started implementation in early 2019. And due to the complexity, the size of the project, and since it affects all our members, it was split up into 3 phases. And we're currently in the final stretch, which is phase 3, and it's estimated to be done by the end of this year. So some implementation details. So this policy change created a new process where members were required to validate all email addresses in their IIT objects every 6 months. And the main purpose of the proposal was to ensure that the abuse mailbox is being monitored by a person and that they are responsive to legitimate reports of network abuse. And failing to validate within 15 days would mean that that IIT object would be marked as invalid in the WHOIS database. And if they were not validated within 30 days, then MyPNIC access would be restricted. So phase 1 included just the validation of IITs associated with parent resource records. We also created a new escalation mailbox, which allowed people to report uncontactable or unresponsive IIT email addresses, which we would follow up manually ourselves. The APNIC Secretariat would follow up manually. The second phase included the validation of customer assignments, and we also resolved some software issues that were encountered in the early stages due to some teething issues. And then lastly, the current phase that we're on, we've already made some improvements to the user interface in MyPNIC and also resolved other software issues that were in the backlog, as well as others that have been reported from members. We've also added the abuse C attribute to WHOIS records, which mirrors the contact information that is listed in the IIT object. And we also plan to reinstate the MyPNIC restriction in the next coming months. Initially, it was already restricting members, but due to some of the issues that were identified, we decided to halt that until and not penalize members too harshly. So some validation stats in the last 6 months, we've had just under 6,000 members that have been requested to validate. Out of those, we've had just under 7,000 members, 7,000 emails that have been sent out. And then we're sitting currently at a validation rate of 87.7, which is a big significant improvement since the earlier phases of this implementation. So for some of you guys who were at the last 2 Apricot conferences, I also did some updates there. More specifically, at the last Apricot conference in Melbourne, we shared some feedback from members about some bugs, user interface issues and frustrations they had about the validation process. At the time, the policy SIG chairs had advised us to wait until those issues had been resolved, and then we would report back at this meeting to discuss further with the community on how to proceed. So our software team were able to resolve most of the issues that were reported, which some members had experience with completing the validation process. Our user interface and UX designers have also helped in improving the MyPinic interface and the IT validation page. And despite many of these issues being resolved, it seems that we are still getting negative feedback from members about the validation process. So for one example, we have a software vendor who's saying that they have concerns about clicking links in an email. We had another ISP saying that it was hard for them to trust any links in an email, and they didn't know that if the email had came from APNIC or not. Another financial institution had similar concerns about clicking on emails, and they had to check the email header to verify that it did come from APNIC. And lastly, we had a university who just outright did not like the automated validation process, and they suggested that we cease the validation altogether. So based on our observation from this implementation and the lessons learned, and considering the feedback that we've received from members, we want to investigate using other methods of validation instead of using unique links in the email itself. One member had suggested that we could use a unique code in the email instead, and then direct them to go to the APNIC website where they could paste the code and that would complete the process. So that's one of the options that we're looking at. Another suggestion from the Secretariat is that we could change the validation cycle from every 6 months to once a year to reduce the burden that we put on members. And lastly, for us to consider deprecating the email attribute in IIT objects and validating only the abuse mailbox. And the reasoning behind that is because we already have 2 email attributes in our role and organization objects, which duplicate that information. So we don't see a need to have a third attribute in a second attribute in the IT object. And this would also ease the pain in members having to validate 2 email addresses instead of 1. But we definitely like to hear any suggestions that you guys have. So if you have any proposed solutions, we love to hear at the end of this presentation, or you can also send an email to the Policy SIG mailing list. So just lastly, to summarize, so members are still reporting negative feedback about the process, mainly security concerns about clicking on email links. So the Secretariat think that there are some things that can be tweaked in this implementation. And we would like to work with the community to amend this proposal to address some of these concerns. We think simplifying the process and reducing the frequency of the validations should help alleviate some of the pain points that the members are having. And we think that it's important that we find a balance between making it easy for members to validate while still achieving the goal of making sure that we have accurate and contactable network abuse contacts in the WHOIS database. So that's the end of my presentation. Do we have any comments or questions from the audience?
Thanks, Otaki. And this proposal is endorsed by APNIC EC on December 2018. Yeah. This policy has published on May 2019. So you have any questions, you can leave message in the comment sector. Our Otaki will respond accordingly. So is there any question? And after currently is showing in the remark that abuse email.
Remarks and abuse email. Not sure what he means there. Yeah, can you clarify that, please, Aftab?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so right now, if you do not validate your mailbox, then it is marked as invalid in the remarks section rather in the abuse email object. So if I am parsing the abuse email object, I still see that as a valid email address.
Oh, you mean in the abuse C role object that's mirrored from the IT? Okay, yeah. We have taken on that feedback and we do plan to mirror the remarks into the role object as well as a future improvement. Would that help or?
It will, but the thing is, it's if I'm only parsing the abuse-email object and getting whatever the content there, I see a proper email address and I'll keep on sending the abuse report to that one.
Right. Okay, yeah.
If you add a remark over there, that means that email address will become invalid for any parsing. And then someone know that the email is not going there just because that email address is not valid anymore.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. We'll definitely share that with our team because I believe we should be able to duplicate the remarks into the abuse role object as well.
Yeah, that's my point. Thank you so much. Thank you for implementing it.
No problems. Thanks for your feedback. Okay, yeah, I see Owen suggested how we can add that. So yeah, we'll definitely take that into consideration as well. Any other questions from the audience?
Well, is there any further question?
If not, over to you, Ching Heng.
Okay, thanks, Otaki.
Thank you very much.
If there is no further question, so we'll go to the next topic. So we welcome the next speakers, George Michelson. So he will introduce the Prop 132 implementation, and welcome the Michelson.
Thank you. I will share my screen now. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I am the product manager for Registry, and I would like to give you a policy implementation report for Proposition 132 AS0 for unallocated and unassigned resources. Prop 132 AS0 for unallocated and unassigned resources has been implemented, and we now publish and maintain a rower object for all of the resources that should not be seen in general public routing. They are the resources that are listed as either available or reserved in the delegated statistics files. An AS0 rower is a formal mechanism to disavow routing origination defined in the RFC. So a rower which has a subject of AS0, an origin AS of AS0, is an attestation by the person who has control of the prefix to say that prefix and any more specific prefix shouldn't be used in a routing context. So the deployment status is that this is now a fully deployed service in APNIC, and we have full systems monitoring, and we're using a cloud-backed solution to make a reliable view of this service. For the time being, we operate with a standalone trust anchor. So this service is completely separated from our main RPKI function. Initially, we deployed a testbed, which was demonstrated at Apricot. And this was based on the Krill system developed by NLNet Labs using delegated file, but it used a soft trust anchor, hand-constructed keys, and we used VMs in our test network in APNIC. This was used by a small number of people, and we were able to show that we had some concerns about many rower under this system, and we then understood our operational burdens. So we have taken this service into production, and it is still based on delegated files, but we have deliberately included a delay reading slightly older files, so we have an operational window to detect if there is a problem with a delegated file before we accidentally mispublish state. Separately, we have modified Registry so we can apply updates that delegate resources that are currently on an AS0. We can update AS0 rower to remove those objects within 5 minutes of a delegation. And this has improved both AS0 responsiveness to change and our main RPKI. And we are collecting information on the use of this system, and we present these in the routing security SIG. So this is a fully monitored system. We are using the same level of assurance as our main RPKI using keys on a hardware security module. And we have deployed in the cloud using Google as our cloud provider. And this will be distributed into the world as we acquire more nodes in the cloud. Further discussion is going to be carried out in the routing security SIG, and I presented on this status yesterday. I gave statistics on use. We have seen 24 ASN fetching from the service. I gave information about the size of the rower. It's a 1 megabyte object with about 65,000 associated prefixes. Operational experience and future direction is going to be discussed in future meetings of the routing security SIG. But the initial outcome is that around 69 routes visible in the default free zone could be marked as bad using this facility. And this has been reported by Job Snyders during testing. Thank you very much. And if there is anything I can tell you or any questions, please let me know.
Thanks, Maxon, to bring in us the deployment presentation. It's wonderful to hear that the proposal is now a fully deployed service. And this proposal reached consensus at the APNIC 48 and endorsed by APNIC EC on last December. So on 2nd September, this policy's implementation has announced in the mailing list. So
yes,
this service also both support RSync and RRDP and have some statistics and presented on routing security SIG yesterday. It's very wonderful. So is there any questions from anyone to ask some question or comments for this implementation? It's very wonderful. So no any questions. So if there is not any other questions, so many thanks to Mackerson for your presentations. So now we have no other presentations. So many thanks again for all speakers. So I will let the Melody and our chair Bertrand to following agenda.
Bertrand, any last words from you before we continue?
Yeah, well, that was a very easy open policy meeting, as there was, alas, no proposals this time, mostly because of the time zone difference. Hopefully, the global situation will be a bit better next year, but I suspect that the next meeting will still be virtual. So if there are no further comments or questions, I'll hand the mic back to you, Melody.
Thank you, Chin Hung. Thank you, Bertrand. And thank you to our speakers. If anyone has any further questions that you aren't able to ask in time, please go ahead and email conference@apnic.net if you would like to forward any questions to any of our speakers today. While I tell you what's coming up next, we're gonna be triggering a poll right now for all our attendees for you to tell us how this session went. So whether you felt this was a good session because we ended pretty quickly, or whether you feel, you know, it could be better, maybe there could be more interaction, etc. Let us know. So what's coming up next, you might be wondering. As usual, we will have a 15-minute break before the much anticipated Women in ICT session in track 1, and also in track 2, a tutorial on how you can set up your own lab by our APNIC trainers. If you've ever wanted to practice APNIC's hands-on training materials at your own time and at your own pace, be sure not to miss out on this tutorial. Last but not least, before I let you go, Have anyone check out our social space? It is essentially the platform for you to network with participants or speakers. Get the new link at the conference website schedule. So we hope to see you there at some point during the day. So I believe that's it for us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chair and Co-Chair. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you, everyone. Thanks all speakers. Thanks